What's up, everybody? Tonight we're going to talk about Bud Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez when we come right back. Don't miss it. Welcome to another episode of Ring Walk Boxing Podcast. I am Bean. And we're going to jump right into this one tonight and talk about Bud Crawford versus Saul Canelo Alvarez. All right, so what we pretty much have is an undefeated Bud Crawford who's never lost. So he does not know or understand what it feels like to taste defeat. And I'm quite sure he wants to keep his record blemish with no blemishes. So he's not trying to allow Canelo to come and rain on his parade. You know what I'm saying? He wants to go out, I'm pretty sure, out on top in boxing with a flawless record, kind of like Floyd Mayweather was able to achieve, Rocky Marciano, a few other boxers. Very rarely do boxers go and have no losses, because even the great ones, like I consider my greats, Sugar Ray Leonard had like 2 losses. Muhammad Ali had a handful. Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, so on and so forth. All right, so let's kind of break down the resume of each guy, and let's talk about the skill set of each guy. Now let's just kind of like all in the comment sections, I would like for y'all to just weigh in on this conversation on who wins and why. What does Bud Crawford bring to the table? And what does Canelo Alvarez bring to the table? And let's just, talk about their last couple opponents, how they looked, what they may do, things of that nature. All right, so with Bud Crawford, his last fight, he went from 147 pounds off a win of beating Errol Spence. He went from 147 and he moved up to 154-pound division. He only had one fight at 154 against Israel Madrimov. Now, Madrimov, his style was different. He bounces around a lot. And I think that style for Bud was a style he had never seen before. So that kind of, him bouncing like a pendulum, moving back and forth, it kind of wasn't a stationary opponent or opponent that fights a certain style. Like, even though I'm an Errol Spence fan, I think Errol Spence was more easier for him to detect his next move when he's playing chess. You know what I'm saying? That's the mindset of the ring IQ of Bud Crawford. He kind of knew what Errol Spence was going to do, and he was able to negate a lot of his moves and was steps ahead of him mentally. Well, with Madrimov, it was a little bit different because he has a very awkward style. So like I said, just before he fought Madrimov, he beat Errol Spence at 147. Prior to that, he fought David Avanesian back in 2022. In 2021, he fought Showtime's Sean Porter. And these are all either TKOs or knockouts. Kell Brook, he stopped him. Kavyaskis, he TKO'd a technical knockout of Kavyaskis back in 2019. Now, Kavyaskis was the guy that a lot of people would say he dropped Bud Crawford. And I want to say maybe that's the only time that Bud appeared to be really hurt. He was hit, he goes down, but he kind of grabs onto Kavyaskis and kind of keeps himself from going all the way to the canvas. But a lot of people think it should have been ruled a knockdown. So If you go back on YouTube, look up Bud versus Kaviaskis. Do you feel it was a knockdown, or was it not a knockdown? Before that, he fought Amir Khan and Jose Benavidez Jr. So you're pretty much seeing Canelo on a on an even level, to where he's just going through these different stages and he's beating these opponents. And these are not just, you know, like Kell Brook. He was 39-2. That's a decent record, that Crawford's fighting somebody like on that level or whatnot. And then Sean Porter, who I consider to be a throwback fighter, he's fighting everybody they put in front of him. He fought Adrian Broner. He fought a lot of other great fighters. Errol Spence, Crawford, who I'm talking about right now. Sean Porter has fought a lot of people, and that's the thing I'm talking about, is that David Avanesian 29-3. Errol Spence was 28-0, no losses, 28 wins. Madrimov was 10-0, but that's the first time Bud has stepped up to 154, to be fair. The first time of him trying to fight in a different weight class. So he's fought some guys with decent records. When you go based on resume and their records, it's not that bad. I don't think the way people portray it to be. People act like Bud, he really hasn't fought nobody, this, that, and the other. But his resume is pretty good. It's pretty good. And I mean, I think to add Canelo to it, and then who knows what he'll do after Canelo, who he may fight. So let's talk about Canelo Alvarez and some of his fights, some of his last fights. All right. So Canelo record 63-39 by way of knockout, 2 losses and 2 draws. 63 wins. So he has a record and a resume that's pretty good, as far as from the beginning up into maybe 3/4 of his resume is very, very good. It's just here in the last few years to where he's been doing what people would call a cherry pick, where he's no longer fighting people or defending the title against fighters like a David Benavidez, or maybe that rematch with Dimitri Bivol, Will that ever come to fruition again? I don't think that Canelo wants to take certain risks with certain style fighters and certain guys that he feels are going to be problematic or give him issues with his style of fighting. Some boxers like to fight certain style fighters, and they know certain style fighters, they're not a good match for them. It's like a kryptonite. So they tend to swerve them. Not so much that boxer necessarily is considered a threat as far as a knockout puncher, but they just might have a style who doesn't suit their style. So they rather not even get themselves signing a contract to want to fight that person or whatever. But let's talk about the resume and record of Canelo Alvarez. So he fought William Skull. We seen in New York, Times Square, the Fatal Fury. Skull was 23-0. So to the average person, when you hear that, you say, okay, this guy got 23 wins and no losses. So in your mind, you're like, wow, dude must be somebody, because he has not lost. He has no win. I mean, he has no losses, but 23 wins. Well, when you break it down, that silver lining, Skull, yeah, he has 23 wins, but then you have to ask, who were those 23 wins against? Anybody can be undefeated, but the question of it is, who have you fought in order to be or maintain an undefeated record? And that's what Rolly Romero was talking about in his interview. That there's too many fighters out here wanting to be undefeated, and they're not willing to put it all on the line, and they want the big paycheck, but they don't want to give the fans the fights they want to see. And that goes back to just a general conversation of the best should be fighting the best, especially when you're a title holder, when you're a person who's a champion, you have a belt. For instance, if you have a WBC belt, or if you're a unified champ with a few belts, how does it look for you not to fight a certain mandatory, have 3 belts, not fight this guy who's considered the next best? You swerve him, but then you want to take a couple steps down and fight somebody like a William Skull that people are like, who is this guy? We never heard of him. And then you see his performance against Canelo, and you say, okay, I see why we haven't heard of this guy. Because a lot of people were very disappointed in that match. Just before him, Puerto Rican fighter Edgar Berlanga, back in 2024 of last year, Canelo fought Berlanga, who was 22 wins, no losses. So a lot of these guys, Canelo is giving them the first loss, but these guys are not experienced at the level that Canelo is. They're not even experienced at the level that Bud Crawford is. So that kind of speaks volumes. Jermell Charlo, the smaller of the Charlo twins, Canelo fought him. He had 35 wins, 1 loss, and a draw. Jaime Munguia, he was 43-0 at the time he fought Canelo. But he was not really that experienced. He had 43 wins, but I call him somewhat green. And when I call him green, I'm saying that to say he hasn't fought certain level fighters. His step-up fight was Canelo. And then he fought Saras, who he lost to, and then he rematched Saras and won. So Canelo was like the first big test for Jaime Munguia, and Jaime Munguia did lose. John Ryder, he was 32-5. Canelo fought him in 2023. And these last few fights, also, shout out to Cam J, as he was saying, these are fights that went all the way to the scorecards. These were decision wins. These were not stoppages. These were not knockouts. And then prior to John Ryder, he fought Golovkin. We call him Triple G. Triple G was 42-1 and 1 draw. Canelo fought him 3 times and won all 3 matches. Dimitri Bivol, a light heavyweight, he gave Canelo his second loss. The very first loss was Floyd Mayweather years and years ago. Prior to the loss with Dimitri Bivol, he fought Caleb Plant. And Caleb Plant is definitely a boxer I have a high level of respect for, because he fights everybody. He's a throwback fighter like Sean Porter. You know, they don't duck any smoke. They're trying to fight the best, or a person who has a name. They want that fight. They're not swerving people. So, like I say, shout outs to Caleb Plant for sure. And he has a fight coming up soon too. We'll talk about him on another episode, Caleb Plant. Before him, he fought Billy Joe Saunders in 2021. And Billy Joe Saunders and Caleb Plant, both alike, their mutual opponent was Canelo Alvarez. They both had moments in their fight against Canelo, but mid rounds to, them 6, 7, 8 rounds in, Canelo was able to turn up, close the gap, cut off the ring like he needed to, and stop him. He stopped Caleb Plant, TKO. So a lot of people are saying that Canelo hasn't stopped anybody in a long time, which he hasn't. So that even more or less has me thinking if his what? Let me at least count these. From Triple G, John Ryder, that's 2. Charlo 3. Jaime Munguia 4. Berlanga 5. Skull 6. So that's 6 opponents of his last fights to where Canelo has not stopped these guys in their matches against him. So seeing this pattern that he's not stopping these guys, it's most likely he's not going to stop Bud Crawford either. He will have probably some good moments where he might even hurt Bud Crawford with a good body shot if he catches him, or a couple shots throughout the fight. But Bud would be smart enough to navigate and use his better footwork against a slower Canelo. I think if Bud does win, it'll be by decision. But he has to really win it decisively. He can't win it like a close, where people are saying it could be a 7 rounds if it's a 12-round fight. It can't be 7 rounds Bud Crawford, 5 rounds Canelo, in the minds of the viewers or the judges, or vice versa. 7 rounds Canelo, 5 rounds Bud. Bud has to win convincingly. He needs to lock in a good 8 rounds if it's a 12-round fight. He needs to secure 8 rounds to win a decision. If it's a close fight, he won't win against Canelo. I can't see it, because Canelo never loses decisions. They always cater to him. The only decision he lost recently was against Dimitri Bivol, and that was just a clear victory for Dimitri. Dimitri probably won a good, at worst, 8 rounds, probably locked in 9 rounds. So he has his work cut out for him. Canelo, Crawford, you're going to be fighting Canelo, but you also most likely will be fighting the judges too. So you need to really turn it up a little bit and lock in 8 rounds out of 12. And that to me would be enough for you to get a decision win over Canelo Alvarez. But I want to know y'all's predictions as well. So let me know how this fight goes, how it plays out, and leave your comment in the comment section below. Because it's a very interesting fight, and I'm looking at the interviews, and I've seen interviews with Bomac, the trainer of Bud Crawford. I see interviews with Bud Crawford, and as I was hollering at Cam J on the line earlier, on the side of Crawford, his team, himself, which any fighter would be that way. A fighter is not going to fight somebody if they feel that they're going to lose. You're not going to you're mentally messed up if you feel you're going to lose before you step in the ring. But there's a level of confidence with Bud Crawford, Bomac, and his side. They feel very, very confident that they're going to come out being victorious against Canelo Alvarez. So what's in their mind to why they feel that way? Maybe it's because they just feel that Bud is just that good, that he's just that much of a talent, because he is a very, very special fighter. Bud Crawford, he can switch hit, so he can fight right-handed, power hand, or he can fight left-handed. So he could be a southpaw or orthodox fighter. And he can do it pretty natural. Like it looks natural when he does it. Many fighters can't do that. Most fighters only fight in one position. There's a few fighters who can switch hit, and Bud is definitely one. And like Teddy Atlas was saying in an interview I watched tonight, is that he has that if factor. That Bud has that if factor. And he has that as his main card. That's like his spade or whatever. Um, I think with the intangibles that he has, the even though Bud is up in age, but in the same aspect, Canelo's up in age as well. So you got two guys that are kind of up in age, but I still feel like the way I see Bud execute his last few fights, he still has a lot of that fire in him. Um, Still pretty decent foot speed, hand speed. Like I say, he's a boxing brain. He just has all these different things that work in his favor. Canelo, to me, he won't ever lose the power because they say power is the last thing that leaves. So he'll always have that puncher's chance or that power. But I feel like his slower footwork is going to be the problem. And that's going to be like the main way that Crawford can beat him is using your faster feet against your opponent with the slower feet. And I don't think that Canelo's going to do very well cutting off the ring. I feel like he's going to get very frustrated. Um, and what he may do out of frustration, I'm not sure yet. But I have a sense of feeling that Crawford's going to be doing a lot of moving around, a lot of angles, lateral foot movements, and stuff like that. And it's really going to frustrate Canelo because Canelo hasn't fought a lot of. He's fought a lot of styles, obviously, because he's fought 60 something fights. But the people that beat him were good boxers. Dimitri Bivol, a very, very technical and tactical boxer. He beat Canelo. Floyd Mayweather years ago, he outsmarted Canelo and beat him with his technician and scientific boxing style. Well, Bud embodies a lot of the same attributes that Mayweather has and Dimitri Bivol has. So, that being said, let's get ready to rumble in September. And also, right before we shut this segment down, in the description area below, the merch, the hats, the shirts, the hoodies, all those kind of things we have in our online store. So, if you're interested, the link is there or whatever, and make sure you comment. Also, make sure you hit the thumbs up and share this on your FB, your IG, your TikTok, your Twitter, whatever. We tweet, all that stuff. Just help get the word out here throughout Cincinnati, worldwide, wherever you are. We just need to try to get this generated here at Ringwalk Boxing Podcast. And if you go on the online store and shop, you're just helping to help me keep coming out with better content and different upgrades to make this show bigger and better in the future. So have a good night, be blessed, and I will catch you on the next round.